YouTube is to save people money so they don't get into a conundrum of having a shower built wrong and then having to spend money after money in order to resolve situations. And so, case in point, I'm kind of on a consultation basis here on this shower, and I could tell that this guy, you know, was pretty on point with somewhat on point with his tiling skills. Now understand also, this is a spec house. This is not, you know, a subdivision in a neighborhood where they kind of slap it together. So, you know, kind of the steps along the way, I think people should be on point with knowing stuff that they don't know in order that they don't get into this. And you know, ignorance is not bliss when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, the least of which is this crack, which I'm going to get to, because I want to kind of go over succinctly some of the skills that I look for when I see a shower like this. Was this guy a tile guy or a guy that could build showers that happen to do tile? And in this case, I'm convinced that he is a relatively good tile setter. And again, relative is the operative term. I look for things when I come into a job like cuts, you know, like this square cut. There's a little bit going on here which I don't like, and a little bit going on here which I don't like. He could have done that over again. You know, just one piece doesn't cost a whole lot. Little stuff like that, you know, I look at, and I don't know how hard it is to see, lippage on here. So on this profile, there shouldn't be any lippage. This is really easy to get straight if you do 45 good enough. The lippage on here is actually very sharp, and so two things I don't like. First of all, that there's lippage, of course, and that it's sharp, because it takes a little file to knock that down. And then on this third corner, yes, there's still a little bit of lippage going on. And then they did right here over here. So 3 out of 4 shot they had and did it wrong. A couple other little things that I noticed coming in here. The grout lines are very large over here and very large over here. This tile is on a mat, and when this tile is on a mat, they have to be pushed up against each other to have some more perfect. You can see the little hairs coming out of, this is ridiculous too. The little fiber hairs coming out from the back of the mat that are showing through the grout line. That is little tiny details that in the preponderance of all the small things become a big thing. I know I got a lot of pushback on critiquing all the little small things, but the little small things add up. And when they add up to the point that, I'm going to get back to that, when they add up to the point that, you know, there was a failure, which this failed 3 years down the road, then I think it's contingent that people know what they don't know. So they came in here, they should have set their shower floor tile first and then overlap their wall tile. But they didn't do that. And where's that big grout line? So, so there's this huge, probably inch grout line going on over here, which there shouldn't be. If they had only done the simple thing of doing their floor tile first and overlapping their wall tile straight on it, then you wouldn't have that big grout line going on. It's kind of a crap job. No, it's a lot crap job, especially here at the bottom. You know, so they're shy a good part of 3/4 of an inch from even touching the floor on their wall tile. So when I gave him his props for being an okay tile guy, that's all I can say about him. He doesn't have the skills to do this small mosaic type of tile, and I'm going to call this mosaic because it is a smaller tile that's on a mat. But also penny tile is very difficult to work with. If you don't have a completely flat surface, you know, to set this on, you're going to have pooling and a lot of other problems. Back in the day, before everybody's waterproofing the surface, I pushed back on penny tile all day long because of all the grout line. There's a lot of grout line going on here that lends itself to more water getting into your pan, which is not good. Going forward, 3 years ago, when they built this, they could have easily grabbed some Aqua Defense, Red Guard, Hydro Band, something, waterproof this, and then it's kind of innocuous that you have all this grout line. But I guess more to the point is that, see these cuts? These cuts going on, it's very, very tiny in the back. But then, as I showed already, there's, so disproportion, okay, so the measurement wasn't done on the curb in all this shower to begin with. So this to there doesn't match up to that to there. Otherwise, those tile would have been consistent all the way across. Small potatoes, but then again, we get to areas like this. Not only are the cuts bad, but the tile has nothing to do with this shower. This is just a cheap glazed ceramic tile that they used a lot of in order to make up the curb material. And there shouldn't have been that. There should have been this floor tile out here. I would have suggested that floor tile been used. A couple of pieces of those on top of the curb would have taken up this whole distance. You could either bone nose both those sides, or you could use the trim on both sides, and it would have been a cleaner look with less grout line. So that's another thing. There are so many small things that even up here, the grout line at the top of the ceiling is pretty big, and then it's small, and then it's pretty big, and then it's small, and then big again. So, and then up at the top left corner. So there's a lot of little stuff that I look at that go, wow, this guy just didn't really have a clue. Although he got this to match up, these tile match up to the pattern all the way up, the grout line is still quite huge, and there's no excuse for that. But it's also inconsistent. It's just it's a better than an amateur job, but that's all I can say. Again, we have this glazed ceramic in here, which has nothing to do with any of the material in this place whatsoever. And the grout line is quite huge. They did a really crap job on doing the grout inside of this niche. The niche is barely sloped, but that's same with the curb. The curb is barely sloped, which probably is still doing its thing. But you can see this little orange discoloration, and that's directly related to water pooling up. Plus, I don't like the cuts. Now we get over to the big impetus of the shower leak problem, that they have a leak going on downstairs. And I don't like seeing this. So we have a crack going on, and the crack goes this way, and it goes that way, and it goes. And so the only thing I can surmise is they mixed their mortar bed proper, either too rich or too thin, meaning it was too dry or too runny, and that begat a weak mortar pan. And when it was weak, eventually, if there's any play in the subfloor, then yes, it's going to crack. And sometimes it doesn't have to be play. And so at first I thought, well, this white stuff could be effervescence coming up. But then I started looking on here, and I realized that they used a white thinset. And I see white thinset remnants all the way outside of the shower. When I was out here earlier, I saw it on the curb. So using a white thinset with a gray material, you're going to be using a gray grout. Then why would you use, if you have an option of two thinsets, there's only two colors, you have gray and white. So they're using white thinset, which is part and parcel, in my opinion, to all of this, wicking through of all that material. Or it could be the mortar bed itself, that they had lime in the mortar, and you're not supposed to use a lime type based mortar when you do a pan. But regardless, at the end of the day, I can't tell where the leak is down below until I pull everything out. The best guess I could give is either the left or the right corner over there, because that's usually the impetus for water to saturate into your wallboard and or your curb material. And then it took 3 years for that to get to the subfloor, and then you have a leak downstairs. But there's no way to tell for sure. I'm 99% convinced that the curb has failed in some form or fashion, even to the point where they didn't wrap the curb properly. It could have been the drain area. It could have been a puncturing of the pan liner. I mean, there's a lot of things that I could surmise, but at the end of the day, I can't tell until I pull everything out. Then I could tell exactly where it came from. But in the meantime, it's hard to go back with just a shower pan. I don't want to take out the whole shower if I don't have to, because nothing happens leak-wise up here, never, ever, ever. You could argue and say the shower valve leaks. That just never happened. In 22 years I've been doing this, I've never had that leak inside of the wall. It's possible, but it's never happened yet. But at the end of the day, if you got to take out a shower pan and redo the shower pan, it's almost at the same time as if you're doing the whole shower. It takes me 5 or 6 days to do a shower pan, and about 7 days to do a whole shower, 8 days to do a whole shower. So, I have to charge almost as much because there's a lot of dry time and a lot of details and stuff like that. And the bigger issue with this is this type of tile, you're never going to get a straight cut, as if you had, a 12 by 12 or 12 by 24 or something like that. You could take out one tile. You can't do that with this. You have to have a clean cut all the way across and come up with some type of border or some type of trim or pencil, and then separate that bottom area from the top area and hopefully get the same tile back, which is probably not going to happen. So you have to come up with a design feature. Floor doesn't really matter. You can come back with any type of floor, but definitely some type of contiguous curb top rather than all of this stuff. In fact, this has probably contributed in large part to what the error failure is, besides the left and the right corner. All these grout lines, water just saturates in, and then they didn't wrap the curb properly. They didn't waterproof, right? If they just waterproofed everything in here, you may have still had the crack, but you're definitely not going to have a leak downstairs. So they failed on that end. You know, just waterproofing would kind of negate any of the mistakes they made. So hopefully that information helps somebody, whether now or in the future, that you're watching this and just know what you don't know, especially if you're having a shower built for the first time. Do one thing as a homeowner, not DIY, but a homeowner, if you're going to contract somebody out, take pictures at the end of the day. Every day they're building the shower, take pictures. Because when you present those pictures to me, I can tell you definitively where the failure is. But right now I can't. You know, I've got to kill the patient to find the disease. I should put that on a shirt. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're going to call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.